My fiancée had a nasty fallout with her co-curator/best friend, and the curator claimed my fiancée cheated on me, but my fiancée didn't deny it, said she had flings to explore her options before committing, and expected me to be grateful because she chose me and wants to continue the wedding since she's the same person. I'm too broken to decide. My name is Anthony. I'm 27 years old, and I live in Chicago, but lately, my entire life has felt like it's being staged inside a gallery. Not just because Helena and I are planning an art-themed wedding complete with a live painter and a minimalist black and white dress code, but because everyone around us seems to be watching, waiting for the final piece to fall into place. Or maybe fall apart. Helena's 29. We met back in college at Northwestern. I was a dazed freshman trying to fulfill a general education requirement by taking an intro to art history class. She was a junior docent guiding us through the on-campus museum. I remember exactly what she was wearing: black turtleneck, slouchy trousers, hair in a low bun, and the way she spoke about Rothko like she'd known him personally. She had this quiet magnetism. A week later, we were grabbing coffee after one of her tours. A month later, we were inseparable. That was 8 years ago. Since then, we've built a life together: gallery openings, teaching gigs, weekend wine tastings in the Loop. We even did a creative retreat once, a mutual pause during a tense year when we kept arguing about everything from money to whether to move in together. We agreed on one rule during that time: no seeing other people. A full stop, not a comma. She needed time to figure herself out, and I respected that. The weird thing was how distant she became during that break. She barely answered texts. Calls went to voicemail. It was like she'd vanished into thin air, and then, about 6 weeks later, she returned like nothing had happened. She said she needed the space to get perspective, and that if anything, it made her more sure than ever that we belonged together. I believed her. Or I wanted to. Now we're deep in wedding planning mode. The reception will be at her favorite gallery in Wicker Park. We commissioned a friend to design the invitations with abstract line work that supposedly symbolizes emotional architecture. There's even going to be a video montage installation of our relationship projected on one of the gallery walls during the cocktail hour. Everyone is thrilled. Everyone, except Mira. Mira used to be Helena's best friend, her gallery co-curator, her ride or die. I never really understood their dynamic. Mira was sharper, edgier, and sometimes downright abrasive, but she was part of our orbit. At least until 3 weeks ago, when Helena abruptly removed her from the bridal party. There was no slow fade, no cooling-off period. Just a public, explosive fight in front of a dozen guests at a bridal fitting. Something about crossed boundaries, unhealthy attachments, and you always go too far. Helena came home flushed and teary, claiming she'd finally realized Mira was never really supportive, just possessive and bitter. Since then, Myra's name has become taboo. A scorched earth. If I so much as mention her, Helena tightens her jaw and changes the subject. But that doesn't stop the tension from lingering. It's like a painting someone tried to cover up with white primer, but you can still see the shadow underneath. Something's off. I can feel it. The other night, we were reviewing the wedding playlist when Helena suddenly reached for my hand and held it too tightly. "Aren't you glad we made it through?" she whispered. I smiled, nodded, said yes. But in my head, I was thinking, made it through what? Because whatever, we survived. I'm starting to think I never actually knew the full story. And if Myra's silence is any clue, she might be the only person left who's still willing to tell the truth. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Mira texted me. Just 3 words. "We need to talk." No emojis. No fluff. Just straight to the point, like always. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Helena would be at her gallery until 8. I told Mira to meet me at this little cafe near the lakefront, quiet, tucked away, somewhere Helena would never go. She arrived wearing sunglasses even though we were indoors, like she wanted to stay half-hidden. She ordered a green tea, didn't touch it once. "Why now?" I asked, after we'd sat in silence for almost a full minute. "Why reach out?" "Because I've tried every other way," she said flatly. I begged her to tell you the truth. I gave her time. I tried being subtle. But now that you're marrying her... She trailed off, staring at her cup like it might crack open and answer for her. "You're talking about the fight," I said. She gave a short, humorless laugh. "That wasn't a fight, Anthony. That was me finally hitting my limit." I waited. She glanced around the cafe, then leaned forward. "She broke the rule." I blinked. "What rule?" "Your break. The one you took a few years ago. No other people." "That rule." I felt my stomach tighten. "What are you saying?" "She hooked up with someone during that break," Mira said. "And not just once. It wasn't some drunk one-night stand." I said nothing. Just stared at her, heart thudding. "It was at the Lisbon retreat," she went on. "The women-only artist residency she went to in July that year. Remember when she went off-grid for a while and barely texted you? That's when it happened." I swallowed hard. "Do you have proof?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "I have names. Dates. I was curating a show with her when she came back. She was different. Giddy. She let a few things slip. The guy's name is Paulo. He's a photographer. Portuguese-American. They met at the retreat. He teaches workshops in analog film. My brain was trying to keep up, trying to line up the images I had of that time with what she was saying. Helena sending me cryptic texts like, feeling free again, and I'm remembering who I am. I chalked it up to artistic introspection. Not this. She told me it didn't mean anything, Mira said. Said it was just a moment. But I told her if she was serious about marrying you, she needed to come clean. And she didn't, I said quietly. No, Mira replied. She spun it around. Called me toxic. Controlling. Said I was trying to sabotage her happiness. She turned it into a betrayal so she wouldn't have to look at her own. I looked down at my hands. They were trembling. She doesn't deserve you, Mira said. I've said that before. But you were always so damn sure. And I didn't want to be the one to break your version of her. My throat felt tight. Why now? Mira finally looked up. Because you're about to promise your life to someone who doesn't think she owes you the truth. And that's not love, Anthony. That's theater. I didn't know what to say. I stood up too fast, knocking into the edge of the table. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. I need time, I muttered. Mira didn't stop me. She just nodded once. But as I walked out into the street, cold air hitting my face, I realized something was already unraveling inside me. I thought Helena and I had been building a future together. But now, every brick felt unsteady. Every promise felt like it had been painted over something else. And the worst part? Somewhere deep down, part of me had always suspected. That night, Helena made pasta from scratch. She'd only done that 3 times in our entire relationship, and always after an argument. She claimed it was therapeutic, like sculpting, but edible. But tonight, there'd been no fight. At least, not out loud. The smell of garlic and basil filled the kitchen. She poured us each a glass of wine and hummed softly while stirring the sauce. I watched her move around like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I ran into Mira today, I said, keeping my voice casual. Her hand paused for half a second on the ladle, barely noticeable. Then she smiled without turning around. Oh, did she glare at you across the street, or just whisper curses under her breath? She actually wanted to talk. Helena finally turned around. Her smile was tighter now. Anthony, whatever she told you, just, please take it with a grain of salt. She's been obsessed with blowing this up ever since I removed her from the wedding. She said she begged you to tell me something before it was too late. Helena's jaw tensed. She turned back to the stove and lowered the flame. She told me about Lisbon, I said. The silence that followed was thick, almost physical, like it pressed down on both of us at once. Helena set the ladle down with slow precision. What exactly did she say? She said you hooked up with someone during the retreat. That you broke the rule. She's exaggerating, Helena said quickly. There was a guy, a few conversations, some tension, but nothing happened. Nothing real. She gave me his name. That seemed to catch her off guard. She what? Paulo. Photographer. You remember him. Helena folded her arms across her chest. You know what this is? This is her final attempt to blow everything up. Because she can't stand not being at the center of it. I'm not asking what Mira thinks, I said. I'm asking you. Did anything happen? She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I flirted. I was in a weird place. We all were. Everyone was drinking wine and making art and talking about freedom like it was a religion. It messed with my head. But I didn't sleep with him. That's what you want to hear, right? It's not about what I want to hear. It's about the truth. Helena stepped closer, her eyes suddenly glossy. Anthony, I love you. I came back from that retreat knowing that. Myra's been twisting things ever since. She hated that I was finally choosing you over her. You know how intense she gets. So she just made all this up? I asked. The timing, the name, the way it lines up with that month you barely spoke to me. She embellished it, painted a story to make herself the victim. That's her thing. There was desperation in her voice now. She reached for my hand, but I didn't move. I'm not perfect, she said, but I didn't cheat on you. I never crossed that line. I swear. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. She looked so earnest, so fragile, like the version of her I'd fallen in love with during all those museum walks and midnight art films. But something in her voice had changed. It was too polished, like she'd rehearsed it. Still, I nodded slowly. Okay, she echoed, her whole body relaxing. For now, I said. I need to process. Helena moved closer and wrapped her arms around me. I don't want anything to come between us. Not Mira. Not anything from the past. I didn't hug her back right away. But eventually, I did. Out of habit. Out of confusion. Out of love, or maybe the version of it I was still clinging to. That night, she curled up beside me in bed like always. Her head on my chest. Her fingers tracing circles on my arm. She whispered that she couldn't wait to be my wife. But I stared at the ceiling, wide awake, thinking of the word she never actually said. No. She hadn't said no. She just said, nothing real. I lasted 4 more days before calling Mira again. I told myself I needed to move on, that I had to trust Helena, believe the woman I knew wouldn't lie to my face. But those words, nothing real, kept looping in my head like a skip track. And the way she'd never actually denied it, just softened the edges until they blurred. So I met Mira again, same cafe, different energy. This time, she came prepared. I figured you'd call, she said, pulling a worn leather pouch from her bag and sliding it across the table. I wasn't lying, Anthony. I never wanted to be part of this, but you deserve to know. Inside were printouts, screenshots from texts. Ones Helena had sent Mira just days after the Lisbon retreat ended. The first message was harmless enough. Helena, Lisbon was wild. Everything felt a little off the leash. Kinda loved it. Then came another. Helena, so maybe I let things happen with Paolo. It was stupid but exhilarating. Can't decide if I feel guilty or just alive. And then, Helena, don't judge me, okay? I needed a reset. And I won't tell Anthony. What he doesn't know won't hurt. I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until Mira spoke. She didn't just betray your trust, Anthony. She made a choice. And then she made another choice to bury it. There were more texts. Flippant ones. Helena, we kissed under the studio skylight like some pretentious indie film. Gross, I know. But damn. Helena, this doesn't change how I feel about Anthony. He's my anchor. Paolo was just a breeze. A breeze. I read that line 3 times, each word carving into me like glass. She had done it. Lied to me. Lied for years, technically. Lied while we were apartment hunting. Lied while we talked about kids, about gallery space, about forever. And these weren't the panicked confessions of someone who messed up and regretted it. They were smug. Detached. Like she was narrating someone else's life. I told her to delete them, Mira said. To start fresh. But instead, she shut me out. And when I said I couldn't stand by and pretend, she blew up. Who else knows? I asked quietly. I don't know. Maybe some people from the retreat. But around here? Just me. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. It felt worse, knowing she carried this lie alone for so long, confident it would never catch up to her. I sat back in my chair and stared at the wall. Not thinking. Just sitting in the new version of my life. The one where the woman I loved chose silence over honesty. The one where I was planning a wedding based on half-truths. She told me you were jealous, I said. Mira smiled without humor. I was. Of how easy she had it. Lie, cry, move on. I'm not built like that. Neither was I. But I was learning fast. I left the cafe without saying much else. Mira didn't press. She just handed me the printouts and told me to do what I needed to. On the train ride home, I stared at the messages again. And one thought hit me harder than anything else. She never once said she was sorry. Not in the texts. Not to me. Not at all. Only that she felt alive. Helena was sitting on the floor when I got home, surrounded by ribbon swatches and RSVP cards. She looked up and smiled like nothing in the world was wrong. Like she hadn't spent the last 2 years building our life on top of a secret. Hey, I was thinking blush pink for the programs. Not too girly, just, we need to talk. The smile fell off her face like someone flipped a switch. She didn't say anything, just slowly stood up, brushing glitter off her jeans. I walked over to the counter and pulled the printouts from my coat pocket. Set them down between us like evidence in a courtroom. She didn't touch them. Didn't even look at them. Lisbon, I said. Paolo. The skylight. The breeze. She flinched. I didn't go looking for this, I continued. I gave you a chance to tell me the truth. I asked you straight. And you lied. I didn't lie, she said softly. I just didn't say everything. I let out a laugh, sharp and bitter. Right. That's what we're doing now. We're splitting hairs over honesty? She finally looked at the pages. Her lips parted. Her face turned pale. I was going to tell you, she whispered. When? I snapped. After the vows? After we had a kid? Or were you just hoping it'd fade into the background like an old receipt? She started pacing, her arms crossed over her chest. You don't understand what that time was like for me. I was spiraling. I felt lost. I wasn't sure if we even wanted the same life anymore. So you slept with someone? Yes, she said, her voice cracking. I did. I did. I'm not proud of it. It wasn't planned. It wasn't some romantic fairy tale. It was messy and impulsive, and, God, I hated myself for it. I stared at her, waiting. I buried it because I thought it was the only way to move forward, she said. I thought, if I could just forget it, we could still have the life we dreamed of. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought I was protecting what we had. By lying to me. I was protecting you from me, she said. From the worst part of me. I swear, Anthony, I've been committed to us every second since. That retreat, it was chaos. A moment of chaos. And I came out of it knowing exactly what I wanted. You. You don't get to make that choice for both of us, I said quietly. She started crying, real tears now. I love you. I love the life we've built. I made a mistake. I messed up. But I didn't leave. I didn't keep cheating. I came back. Doesn't that mean something? It means you came back hoping I'd never find out. She walked over and tried to grab my hand, but I pulled away. I didn't plan on falling for someone who could lie so easily, I said, and cover it up with wedding plans and cute save-the-dates. I'm still me, she said, desperate now. I'm still the woman you fell in love with. I shook my head. No. You're the woman who watched me pick out table linens and sample cake flavors while carrying this lie around like it was just a pebble in your shoe. Silence stretched between us like wire pulled too tight. Then I said it. The wedding's postponed. She froze. What? I'm not calling it off. Not yet. But I can't marry someone I don't trust. Not now. She stared at me, stunned. Her makeup was smudged, her shoulders sagging. She looked like a bride who'd been left at the altar, except the altar was still weeks away. I don't want to lose you, she whispered. Then maybe you should have thought about that before Lisbon. And with that, I turned and walked into the other room. For the first time since I proposed, the future didn't feel like a shared canvas anymore. It felt like a wall. And all I could do was step back and try to figure out whether the life we painted together had ever really existed in the first place. The morning after I postponed the wedding, I started making the calls. First were my parents. My mom answered on the first ring, already buzzing with pre-wedding errands. Anthony, I was just about to text you about the place cards. We're postponing, I said. A beat of silence. Then, what do you mean? I mean the wedding's not happening right now. I'll explain later. Another pause. Is Helena okay? She's fine. And you? I don't know. It went like that with everyone. Bridesmaids, groomsmen, cousins flying in from Seattle and Nashville, Helena's aunt who'd already booked a room at the Ritz. I kept it short. Something came up. We're taking space. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Half the time, I felt like a robot reading a cancellation script. Some people didn't even try to hide their annoyance. I took time off work for this, Helena's cousin Derek grumbled. I bought a suit. Yeah, I said. I'm sorry. Helena and I had a joint wedding website. I updated it that night. Just one sentence at the top. Due to unforeseen personal reasons, we are postponing our wedding at this time. We appreciate your understanding and support. Within hours, the calls doubled. Her parents left a voicemail, polite but tense. We're shocked, Anthony. If there's anything we can do, let us know. My friend Jonah texted. You okay, man? Didn't see this coming. My cousin Sophia asked outright. What did she do? Or was it you? Should I cancel the Airbnb? And through all of it, Helena sent me texts. Little ones at first. Can we talk? I miss you. Still love you. Then longer ones. Emotional, pleading. I know I hurt you. I understand why you're angry, but I don't think this should be the end of us. People make mistakes. We're more than this. I still believe in us. Do you? I didn't answer. The truth was, I didn't know what I believed anymore. I started sleeping at my friend Jonah's place, crashing on his couch. He didn't ask questions. Just handed me a beer the first night and said, you don't owe me an explanation. Just let me know if you're gonna hog the shower. I appreciated that more than I could say. What no one tells you about unraveling a future is how loud the silence becomes. Every corner of your life is filled with echoes, plans you made, dreams you folded into calendars and shared Pinterest boards. Now they just sat there, reminders of what could have been. A few nights in, I opened our honeymoon itinerary. Lisbon, ironically. We were supposed to fly out 2 weeks after the wedding. I booked us a photography walking tour, a wine tasting in Sintra, a sunrise cruise. I'd even gotten us a reservation at this rooftop restaurant with a 6-month waitlist. I stared at the confirmation email, jaw clenched so tight I gave myself a headache. When I closed my laptop, I saw her scarf still hanging on the coat rack by the door. The one she wore the night we got engaged. I didn't touch it. I couldn't. I knew people were whispering. Some probably thought I cheated. Others assumed Helena got cold feet. But I didn't care about their theories. The truth sat too heavy in my chest to worry about reputation. What haunted me wasn't the infidelity, it was the fact that I hadn't seen it. That I'd been so all in, so trusting, that I never even thought to question her. It made me wonder what else I'd been blind to. I started avoiding people. Skipped Jonah's invite to a group dinner. Dodged calls from my parents after the 3rd time they said, just talk to her. Anthony. People forgive worse things. No one understood. Not really. This wasn't just about cheating. It was about the lie. The years of it. The performance. The fact that she'd let me walk toward a life I never really had. All while holding a secret behind her back like a fragile glass she didn't want to drop. And now that glass was shattered. I was the one picking up the pieces. Alone. A week after I postponed the wedding, I moved out of our apartment. It wasn't permanent. I told Helena I just needed time, space. I said it calmly, over the phone. She didn't cry, didn't scream. She just said, okay, like she was trying not to break the spell by pushing too hard. I took a few bags, my laptop, sketchbooks, a couple shirts. Jonah let me keep using his spare key. Stay as long as you want, he said. Seriously, you're not taking up space. And your stuff doesn't smell like paint thinner, so that's already a win. I thanked him, then locked myself in the guest room and didn't come out for hours. Helena kept texting. Short things now. I left your hoodie on the bed. Thought you might want it. Your cousin messaged me. I didn't respond. Just letting you know. Can we meet for coffee? No pressure. Just, please. I didn't reply. I didn't want to see her cry again. I didn't want her to convince me with her voice, her hands, the way she always did. Not this time. Instead, I filled a notebook. Every page, every line, just feelings I couldn't say out loud. I didn't even use full sentences at first. Just words. Betrayed. Embarrassed. Confused. Lonely. Used. Then, was I stupid? Did she ever really love me, or just love the way I made her feel? How many people knew and didn't tell me? I couldn't stop asking questions. But there were no answers, just the hollow ache of realizing how many memories had been built on false ground. Some nights I stared at old photos on my phone. Helena dancing at our engagement party. Helena curled up on the couch in one of my t-shirts. Helena kissing me in front of the bean, laughing because it was cliché. Did she already know then? Was she already hiding it? I began to see shadows in all the smiles. Like every happy moment had a crack in it I'd missed. The hardest part was how badly I still wanted to talk to her. Not to yell, just to feel her voice again. To pretend, just for a second, that we were okay. But I didn't. Because every time I got close to reaching out, I thought of those texts she'd sent Mira. The flippant tone. The way she joked about it. The way she'd said, what he doesn't know won't hurt. That sentence followed me like a ghost. Jonah tried to cheer me up. Let's hit the lakefront, he offered one Saturday. You need air. You need movement. You need to stop staring at your shoes. I nodded, but I didn't go. I wasn't ready. Instead, I took out our honeymoon folder and started tearing it apart. Restaurant reservations? Shredded. Itineraries? Gone. Romantic surprise notes I'd hidden between the pages? Burned. Actually burned. Jonah didn't ask. I think he saw something in my face that told him not to. That night, Helena showed up at his door. Jonah answered while I hid in the hallway, my back pressed against the wall like I was avoiding a bomb. She's here, he whispered. Wants to talk. Says she won't stay long. I peeked into the hallway. She looked tired. Hollow-eyed. She was holding something, my old sketchbook. The one I'd left behind. I found this, she said, voice trembling. You were working on something. I thought you'd want it back. I stepped out. Took it from her hands. Said nothing. Anthony, she said. I know I can undo what I did, but I want to rebuild. I want to earn back your trust. You don't get to decide what rebuilding looks like, I said. I know. I'm not giving up on us. I nodded. Not because I agreed, but because I didn't have the energy to argue. Please, she said. Just let me try. I looked her in the eye. I need you to leave me alone for now. She blinked, stepped back, nodded once. I still love you, she said quietly. I didn't answer. That night, I sat on Jonah's balcony with a beer and my sketchbook in my lap. I flipped through the old pages. Drawings of Helena. Our apartment. The ring. Then I opened to a fresh page. Stared at it. Blank. Just like everything ahead of me. And I started to draw. Not because I knew what it would become. Just because it hurt too much not to. Weeks passed. At first, I kept track of how many days it had been since I left Helena. Then I stopped counting. There was no clean calendar for grief, not the kind that comes from betrayal. It just becomes part of your routine, like brushing your teeth or checking your email. A silent companion. I went back to work, half-heartedly. I met with a few clients, sketched some layout plans for an exhibit proposal I'd been dragging my feet on. But everything felt muted, like I was moving underwater. Jonah nudged me toward a therapist. Just try it once, he said. If it's awful, I'll buy you beer and pretend we're in our 20s again. So I went. Her name was Marissa. Her office smelled like eucalyptus, and there was a weirdly calming abstract sculpture in the corner that looked like it was trying to fold in on itself. She asked questions gently. Never pried. Just open space. It took me 3 sessions before I actually said Helena's name. She broke the rules, I told her. And not just the rule about not hooking up. She broke the rule about honesty. About who we were. Marissa nodded. What part hurt most? The lie, I said. That she made a decision for both of us. That she decided I didn't need to know. That my trust wasn't worth the risk. I told her about the texts. About Mira. About the way Helena had performed normalcy right up until the moment I found the cracks. She told me she loved me. That I was her anchor. And do you believe that? Marissa asked. I thought about it. Long and hard. I believe she loved me the way people love safety, I said. The way people love a fire escape during a storm. That became the theme of our sessions. How much of myself I had woven into the idea of us. How I had confused loyalty with love. Stability with truth. She always said I was the steady one, I told Marissa. But now I think she liked that I was easy to stand next to. Because I never wobbled. You were her center, she said. But she never offered you hers. That stuck with me. I stopped replying to Helena's messages. She still sent them sometimes. Check-ins, little memories, links to songs we once slow danced to. But they didn't sting anymore. They just felt distant. Like postcards from a place I used to live. One day, I ran into Mira at a local gallery. She looked surprised to see me. Still breathing, I said with a small smile. Barely, she joked. Then, how are you, really? I'm getting there. She nodded. You look lighter. I hadn't realized it, but she was right. Something in my chest had shifted. The weight wasn't gone, but it wasn't dragging me under anymore. I owe you, I said. Not just for telling me. For not letting it sit. Mira shook her head. You don't owe me anything. I just didn't want to watch you marry someone with half the story. Still, I said. Thank you. She smiled. You're welcome. That night, I went home and deleted the wedding folder from my laptop. I didn't back it up. Didn't sift through old photos one last time. I just dragged it to the trash and emptied it. It didn't feel dramatic. It felt clean. A few days later, Helena called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, her voice soft, resigned. I won't bother you anymore. I just hope you find peace. For the first time, I believed she meant it. And more importantly, I knew I didn't need it from her. Peace, like love, had to come from somewhere else now. From me. 3 months later, I stepped off a train in Naples with nothing but a backpack and a sketch pad. The air was warmer than I expected, heavy with the smell of salt and sun-warmed stone. I had no real itinerary. Just a list of art studios I'd marked on a napkin and a vague sense that I needed to be somewhere new, somewhere untouched by the version of me that had stood at an altar that never got used. Traveling alone was strange at first. I was used to turning to someone beside me, pointing out a street performer, asking where to eat, laughing at how lost we were. Now, I kept those moments to myself. And eventually, I started liking it. In the mornings, I wandered through back alleys and outdoor markets, sketching in bursts when something moved me, a kid balancing a soccer ball on his knee, a fruit vendor arguing with a tourist, laundry dancing between windows. In the afternoons, I journaled. Not about Helena. Not anymore. Now it was about what I wanted. Not just career-wise, but personally. Things I'd never let myself want before without seeing them through the filter of us. One afternoon, I ended up at a community art studio just outside the Spanish Quarter. A flyer had been pinned to the cafe wall. Open workshop. All languages. All styles. Bring your story. So I went. They didn't ask where I was from. They didn't ask why I was there. They just handed me a set of charcoal pencils and nodded toward the easels. I drew for hours. For the first time in months, I didn't think about what I was trying to prove or who might see it. I just let the lines happen. That night, back in my small rented room overlooking the piazza, I got a message from Mira. It wasn't about Helena. It wasn't dramatic. Just, hey, just thought of you. Hope wherever you are, the sky's a little lighter today. I smiled. For a long time, Helena's name had felt like a bruise. But now, I could think about her without flinching, without anger, without that hollow ache in my ribs. She was a chapter. A long, painful one. But not the whole story. I sent Mira a photo back, just a street mural I'd walked past earlier that said, in shaky spray paint, you are not what they left behind. Then I added, thanks for everything. I'm good. Really. After I had sinned, I grabbed my sketchbook and walked outside. The sun was dipping behind the rooftops, casting the city in soft amber. Kids were playing soccer with a half-flat ball. A woman laughed from a balcony, watering her plants. And me? I was still healing, still learning. But for the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't haunted. I was here, present, and finally, free.